Hello, it's Deepa from the Beaumont Library with your recommended read. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from the Ashes by Jesse Thistle with permission by Simon and Schuster. My Kokum Nancy's palm felt leathery in mine as we walked alongside of the train tracks. Stands of poplars swayed and bent in the wind, and she stood still for a second to catch her bearings and watch the flat-bottomed late spring clouds slouch by. She mumbled, then began thrusting her gnarled walking stick into the tall brush ahead, spreading it open, looking for flashes of purple or blue. Purple was a clear sign that the pregnant Saskatoon berry bushes were ready to give birth and ease the winter suffering of birds, bears, and humans. Berries, Kokum said, knew well their role as life-givers, and we had to honor and respect that. We did that by knowing our role as responsible harvesters, picking only what we needed, and leaving the rest for our animal kin so they could feed themselves and their young. That was our pact, she said, and if we followed it, they'd never let us down. My Kokum wore brownish-yellow eyeglasses the size of teacup saucers, but her eyes could still see things my 3-year-old eyes couldn't. I always tried to search out berry patches before she did, but she always got there first. Always. As we waded deeper through the rail-side grass and reeds, a vast fleet of mosquitoes and gnats lifted from the ditch floor and enveloped our heads. A few flew into my mouth, choking me. I coughed and batted at the air. No, Jesse. Kokum grabbed my arms and held them. They are our relatives. Never do that. I'd never seen her angry before, but she was now. As the black cloud intensified around us, she drew in a deep breath, closed her eyes, and spoke softly in Michif. She pointed to me and our half-full pail of berries, and then to the rat fruit plant that protruded out of her dress pocket. Her voice sounded like warm summer air swooshing over the open prairie right before rain comes, and reminded me of when I'd accidentally disturbed the hornet's nest behind the smoke shed. There was no anger in her voice then. The plume of insects hovered mid-air for a second, then flew skyward and dispersed, just like the hornets had done. I looked at her in amazement, and my mouth opened, but no sound came out. I strained to hear any buzzing, but there was only the call of a loon far in the distance, followed by the shuffle of Kokum's moccasins. Oh, my silent one, Kokum said. I just told them we have a job to do. Her brown face crackled into a smile. I asked them to visit us later if they must, but for now, we need to concentrate. She brushed a few strands of hair from my face and hoisted me over a puddle. Or maybe they're right. Maybe it's quitting time. Let's get back, Chi Garçon. We have enough to make a good bannock. I love Kokum's bannock more than anything, even harvesting with her, listening to her stories, or hearing her sing. She made it whenever we visited. We lived in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, about an hour's drive away from my grandparents. Their cabin was in Erin Ferry near Debden, just south of Big River between the old Highway 1 on one side and the new Highway 55 on the other. The CN Railway cut up the center of the road allowance, connecting Debden to Big River and on to the rest of Saskatchewan. My grandparents' log cabin wasn't like any other place I knew. Mom told us that her dad, Mushroom Jerry Morissette, had made it by hand from the surrounding aspen hardwood after our family lost our homestead in Park Valley a few kilometers away. It took him one season to fell the trees, strip them of bark, and build it, and another half season to chink in the cracks with mud and moss, waterproof the roof, and make it ready for winter living. Nobody else had a neat house like my Kokum and Mushroom, way out in the country in the middle of nowhere, with no water or electricity. Mushroom said there weren't many people like us anymore, rebels who fended for themselves. Maybe a few Arcand relatives down the road, but that was about it. The rest had sold out and got farms or went to the city to find work. He didn't own his land. It belonged to the Queen of England. She doesn't mind us being here, Mushroom said, and it lets me hunt and trap freely and be my own boss, which I like. He told us stories about how our people once had lived in large communities in handsome houses just like his all over Saskatchewan, living off the land. But that was before the government attacked us and stole our land during the resistance, before our clans fell apart. I couldn't understand what he was talking about. I tried imagining villages of our people living like he and my kokum did, in their little log house, all squished onto little pieces of land owned by the Queen, and I couldn't. But there were beaver, muskrat, deer, bears, elk, and fish everywhere, forests, streams, and rivers all around to play in, and no neighbors for miles and miles. If someone tries to push us around, we just pick up and move somewhere else, Mushroom said. We live like this to be free, like our ancestors. I understood that. And that was an excerpt from The Ashes. I hope you check it out.